Hello, my name is Golda Christine. I like talking about books. Today we're talking about Where the Crawdads Sing. The movie premiere is in 2 days. This has been on the New York Times bestseller list for 167 weeks, and this is the 3-minute synopsis with spoilers. So we're in the 1950s, North Carolina. Our main character, Kaya, Catherine Danielle Clark, is quickly orphaned. Her mother leaves first, followed by her siblings. She's closest both in age and relationship with her brother Jody, but he leaves and she's left with her drunken father, who is abusive and violent, the reason her family scattered in the first place. He is decently behaved with Kaya. They share a few sweet moments in the diner and fishing, but one day he disappears, leaving Kaya to fend for herself. She digs for mussels in the early morning and sells them to a black shop owner named Jumpin up the marsh. She boats to him. He becomes the father figure for her. She goes to school one day in her life and there finds that the town doesn't understand her, considers her dirty, and calls her the marsh girl, so she never returns. She learns how to read from a kind boy named Tate Walker, who is a friend of Jody's. They develop a friendship that becomes romantic. But he leaves off to college, promising to visit her in a few months' time, but does not. So Kaya is left again just with the marsh. Her best friends are seagulls. There is a beautiful line that kind of talks about how the marsh is a character in and of itself. That says, Kaya put her hand to the breathing wet earth and the marsh became her mother. So where the land meets the sea and that ecosystem is central to Kaya's life and the story. Kaya, abandoned again by Tate, really does crave social interaction and has seen this group of friends, including a boy named Chase Andrews, around town when she buys necessities and goes to Jumpin's for the gas in the boat and to sell. They develop a relationship that becomes physical, and he pursues her, and she kind of just gives in because she's so lonely. But she finds out that he is engaged to another girl from a newspaper and feels betrayed again, decides to never trust another human. From the first page prologue, we know that a dead body is going to be pulled from the marsh around this time, and that body was Chase Andrews. So we have been intrigued the whole book about how that's going to go down. So there's a scene where they accidentally bump into each other, and Chase tries to take advantage of Kaya, but she fights him off and says that if he tries something like that again, she'll kill him. So Tate has come back into the picture begging for forgiveness. And Kaya just can't trust him again. He also tried to warn her about Chase, but she, by this time, is an accomplished writer, publishing her findings from the marsh and her collections of feathers and seashells. And she is still, once they find Chase's body pulled out from the marsh, a suspect in his murder. So the officers, Joe and Ed, there's an exciting scene where she tries to boat away, but they catch up with her and she's taken into custody, spending a few miserable months in jail. Tom Milton is her lawyer and defends her, and she is found not guilty. So the town is kind of disappointed by this verdict. They, this whole time, have really judged her, and the theme of loneliness and prejudice is big throughout Kaya's story, but she eventually finds it in herself to trust Tate Walker, who by this time is also very accomplished and studying the marsh and invested. So they spend the rest of their lives living in her shack, and at the end, Tate discovers after her death a box of poems. So she had been quoting this poet under the name Amanda the entire story once she's literate, and we find out that it was her that had penned all of these poems. But we also find a necklace Chase Andrews wore when they found his dead body, but later was gone in the morgue. So that's our clue that Kaya was in fact the murderer of Chase Andrews, and the readers, as well as Tate Walker, are left reeling with this information. So that is the story of Where the Crawdads Sing. It's both a coming of age and a murder mystery, and it's very entertaining. I think the film will be too, so I'm curious in the comments. Tell me how you think they compare. We'll see you next time.